So if we're preparing to sell a business in 2025, what things do we want to have in order? Last week we went through 5 items. This week we're going to go through 5 more. So stick around and we'll recap all 10 at the end of this. I'm Arthur Petropoulos, managing partner here at Hillview Partners. We're a middle market, lower middle market investment banking, M&A, and capital advisory firm, helping companies generating $1 million to $10 million in pre-tax earnings or EBITDA sell their companies or secure capital. And so last week we went through 5 steps in preparing a business for a sale in 2025. Today we're going to go through steps 6 through 10, and at the end we'll recap all 10 of them. So number 6 is defining the sales process of the business. If you are preparing to sell a business, you need to pinpoint where sales are coming from. And again, you don't have to have every channel covered. You don't have to say we're doing emails, we're doing text messages, we're doing phone calls, we're doing paid ads, we have content being created, we're sending carrier pigeons everywhere with scrolls. You just have to be able to define where most of the business comes from. And if you say, hey, look, we've been around for 30 years, most of it's just inbound, that's fine too. It just needs to be defined. And not only just where the sales come from, but how that sales process works. On one end, you have a lead. On the other end, you have a customer. What is the journey, if you will, that they are traversing to get from one to the other? How do you facilitate that exercise? Number 7 is going to be the process of execution or fulfillment. And what this really means is, how does a service get done for the customer? How does the product get made for the customer? If they are going from lead to a customer in the sales process, and now they are a customer needing something to a customer that receives that something, how do they get from A to B? What is the steps there? What does that exercise look like? How do you provide the service? How do you make the thing that they are buying? And that's kind of the fulfillment or execution process. And then number 8 is, what is the operational processes of the business, or the administrative elements? So you have all of these things happening. You have sales execution, but how does that all get tied together? Is there an HR person? And this somewhat dovetails into the organizational chart that we discussed in the last video, but how does the business get tied together? How has it been growing intelligently? What are the supporting services? Financial, accounting, tax, hiring and firing, legal issues. And not all of these things need to be internal to the business. As they grow, you tend to bring on more in-house people, but it can just be the utilization of vendors. But how is that mapped out, and how do you make sure all parts of the business, whether defensively in protecting the interests of the business or more from a proactive compliance perspective, but how does that machine kind of make all of the gears and levers and pulleys of the business work? And number 9, and this ties back to what was number 1, was getting the historical financials in order. Now we're looking at the projections. And so if you think of how we're defining a business, we're always saying kind of what was there, what is there, and what will it become. And so number 9 is the projections of the business. And so if we were to take the same financial categories roughly of sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating expenses, profit, EBITDA, cash flow, right? If you were to take that same kind of thing and project it forward, what does that look like? And if the answer is, it's probably going to look the same, that's perfectly fine. People love consistent cash flow in companies, so that's not going to be a problem. It doesn't have to be something exciting, if you will, to be good. Good is exciting in itself. And so I think sometimes when people are thinking about projections of a business, they're talking about, well, it always has to look like this. And maybe if you're a cash-burning early-stage company, you really do need that level of growth. But if you are profitable and consistent, people just want to see more consistency and profitability. Now, that being said, and getting to number 10, is we do want to show growth catalysts. And so no matter what the growth trajectory or line looks like for a business, there's still going to be catalysts. There should always be the thought of what could grow the business. And some of these things are going to be things that you said, yes, we will do, or yes, we have done, or yes, we were in the process of doing. And others are going to say, look, it's not for us, but we know that if we wanted to grow, we would do these 5 things. And the next season, the next chapter, the next ownership iteration or paradigm of the business should pursue them. And that's perfectly fine. Just because you haven't done something doesn't mean that it's going to get 0 credit in the exercise of preparing for the business. However, not saying anything about it or not having these things thought about will, of course, get you no credit. And so always things you want to be thinking of. And we find that when we're working with different clients, that they always do have these things to say, look, these are the things that could be done to grow the business. These are the ones that we want to do. These are the ones that we don't necessarily want to do in our chapter, but could be useful to the next round of ownership. And so when we are fundamentally, and to kind of recap all 10 of these things, let's run through it first, and then after that, we'll kind of conceptually think of what things we're actually looking at. And so we'll recap last video as well as this one. Number 1 is to prepare the financials. Historically looking at what the company has generated, both from a, call it income and balance sheet perspective, as well as from a cash flow or EBITDA perspective. 2 is the organizational chart. Who is everyone at the company? What do they do? What are their roles? 3, have an overview of the product, service, or offering. What is the thing that you provide? What pain does it prevent, solve? What benefit does it provide? 4, understanding the access highlights. To what end market, niche, vertical audience, industry. 5, what competitive highlights are there? Why is it better than everything else? What is the durable competitive advantage? What is its proprietary components, the secret sauce of it all? Now, digging into today's video. 6, understand and have your arms around the sales processes of the business. 7, understand and have your arms equally around the execution or fulfillment components of the business. 8, understand the same for operations. How does this all tie together? How does the machine work? 9, look at the projections of the business from a financial looking forward perspective, and what will the business generate, and how does that expected to change or not in the future. And 10, what are the catalysts for growth? Those that are being undertaken, those that potentially would be undertaken, and those that maybe would not ever be undertaken by existing ownership, but would be viable paths for future growth for other owners. What is this all really doing in preparation for selling a business? Is it's allowing you to effectively communicate, to first off, put your arms around the whole business and see if there's any weak points here, see if there's any opaque elements, areas that need to be clarified, because if you can't define it well, then it probably means that it is not defined well or is not structured well, and that allows you the opportunity to rectify that, to have it more fully prepared. But what are we really looking at for a business? And it's the same kind of tenets that we always pound the drum on in all of these videos, is that a business is fundamentally people, process, and product. And so we went through each of those elements within this. Within processes, you have sales, execution, and fulfillment. And in preparing the narrative to optimize the terms of a deal, to really put the best foot forward, you are defining a business on fundamentals, that's projections and historical financial performance, access, and who do you access and what customers do you have access to, capabilities, what makes the business special. Now layer all of that over with some catalysts for future growth, and that is a compelling narrative. And so if you think about it, the preparation for a business exit is truly the creation of the optimal narrative, because you're just getting your arms around everything and clearly communicating it to the audience. So a topic for another video, but if you're preparing a business for an exit in 2025, do these things, and I can guarantee, even if it took a week to simply just write all these things down, you will highlight the elements that need to be more clarified or rectified, and you will accentuate or really bring light to the elements that are superior. So that's a thought for today. Hope the week's finishing up well for everyone. God bless. See everyone next time.